So hello from Green-Mopeds. So today we're taking out a possible future bike in the UK, which is the Horwin SK3 Plus. I say future bike because this was actually shown off for the first time in EICMA in November 23, and we're now in August 25. And the I guess dilemma or consideration by the importer is when or if they bring this out. So we've got it for a little bit. We're going to show you what it's about. I think these are available in Europe already, and then see what happens to the bike actually. So obviously people know about Horwin. They've been around for a long time. They've got the EK series, which is a sort of smaller bike, and then they've got the SK series. There was actually an SK1, which we've never had here. We've had the SK3, and I think it's fair to say that that bike was I don't know if it was brought out because of it, but it was literally aimed at the Super Socko CPX. Speed was the same, although it had more power and it possibly could have gone faster. It was literally speed the same, 72 volt versus 60 volt, so greater battery capacity, I think, or probably with the maths it probably works out about the same, but 72 volt, chain driven, price was similar, all that sort of stuff. So this is, if you like, the upgrade to it, and in this one isn't the final version. And I know that because if you look on the Horwin website, the version that they're showing off has ABS and traction control, and this one doesn't have that. So this must have been the version that originally came out, and that's pretty normal. The V-Moto Stash came out, and then they added in ABS and traction control later. They added Pirelli tyres later. So this is essentially, I guess, the pre-production model. But in terms of power and performance, it should be the same, and the main features should be the same as well. So a little bit about the bike. It's 1.9 meters long, and without two batteries, it is 100 kilos in weight. So not too dissimilar from anyone else, but it comes by default now with two batteries, and they are 72 volt, 45 amp hour. So that is not much of an increase from what Horwin were doing before, because they had 72 volt, 40 amp hour, but that was on their EK range. But on the SK range, they only ever brought out 72 volt, 36 amp hour. So they've jumped up quite a bit, and again, might be in response to, although I guess they did it first. V-Moto are moving to 74 volt batteries, and obviously these are 72 volts, so pretty much going down the same path in some respects. This one is more equivalent to the CPX Pro, because obviously, well, not obviously, it is 8.64 kilowatts in power, which is interesting that they stress the 6.4. The CPX Pro is 8, so maybe they just wanted to make a point that it had more than the CPX Pro. In reality, that's less than 1 horsepower more. It's 640 watts versus 750 watts for 1 horsepower, so it's like 0.9 horsepower more than a CPX Pro, but still more, so they can still tick that box. And the CPX Pro currently is only 60 volt. So, and we're at 72 volt here. So again, you could say, okay, well, they're going after now the CPX Pro, which is fair enough. Why not? Overall size is, again, comparable to CPX Pro, being 1.9 meters long. The CPX Pro is about that. CPX Pro obviously comes with the base of a rack and a screen, more of a full-size screen than this. But the CPX Pro doesn't come with a colour screen, which you can see there. So one of the big sort of improvements, I suppose, or upgrades from the standard SK3, other than power and range and all that, there are some subtle things that are actually quite good. One of them is that this button down here, this P button, puts the bike into ready. Okay, so when it's, although it's showing ready all the time, P means throttle is dead. Okay. Now on the old SK3 bikes, and actually on all of the other Horwins, the EKs as well, once you turn it on and got it into ready, you could never take it out again unless you turned it off. So this was a one-way switch, and now, of course, as you can see, it goes in and out ready. It's just a minor thing, but little things like that sometimes make all the difference to me. Okay, it's still got reverse, and it's got modes 1, 2, 3. As you can see, it's got master cylinders here, your lights, horn, indicators, which do make noise, which is always a good thing. Hazard lights, and in there's a USB port, USB-A. You'll notice down here that it is keyless, which is good because they didn't provide keys, they only provided fobs. So it's got proximity, so as long as the fob is within range or near, you can just turn the bike on and off from that switch there without having to use a key. So that's all good. So that is one upgrade from the standard SK3, which is the ready button now does into and out of ready. Also, the obvious thing there is that the screen is now a 7-inch color screen. And again, sort of one up against the CPX. CPXs have never gone to color. Colour isn't everything, I suppose, but it is quite a big screen now. As you can see there, you've got the power along the top, you've got your battery along the bottom. You know, this is still in kilometres because it's essentially I haven't worked out how to put it back into miles yet. You've got battery A, battery B, range. So range they talk about as being 130 kilometres. Which is what, 80 something. But what I've been doing recently, as you might have seen on my CPX review, is actually doing worst case range. So worst case range is worked out by taking the maximum capacity of the batteries, which is in this case 72 times 45 times 2, which is about 6.4 kilowatt hours of battery capacity. You've got an 8.64 kilowatt motor. You do the maths on that, and it basically means that you can run this bike flat out, as in consuming all 8.6 kilowatts of power, which of course you won't do, but this is a theoretical worst case, and then divide that by the battery capacity, and you get 45 minutes of use. You will chomp through these batteries at full power in 45 minutes, both of them. And then what you do is you do the 45 minutes of the speed that it can achieve at that output, which is 100 kilometers. So you're saying 45 minutes of 100 kilometers, or 3/4 of 100 kilometers, and you're talking 75 kilometer range, worst case, which of course is just a bit less than 50 miles. So it's actually 46 miles. So 46 miles is the worst case range you'll get out of this bike based on that theoretical use case. Okay, so if you don't get 46 miles out of it, there's something wrong, I would say. So you're looking at, real world, better than that. So you're looking at, let's say, 60 would be probably more reasonable for this sort of bike. And obviously in London, when you're pootling around at 20 miles an hour on every road, you might even get better than that. You might be up to 70 miles. So that's obviously a good thing, and an improvement over the standard SK3, and better than the current CPX Pro, because it's still on 60 volt. Okay, so I don't know if that's of use, but it is a way of sort of normalizing all of these range quotes that people are giving you. Worst case scenario, 46 miles. Okay. The batteries are fairly heavy. So even though the bike weighs 100 kilos, with the 2 batteries in it, you're getting over 130 kilos of weight. The other good bit of news, and an improvement over certainly the first generation of SK3s, is that there's now a dual charging cable by default. So Horwin in general, despite having bikes that could take 2 batteries, only ever included 1 cable. So you could only charge 1 battery at a time. And it also feeds through to being able to charge 1 battery at a time off the bike as well. So now Horwin have provided this bike by default with a dual cable. I haven't worked out yet whether it needs that to get full power, because in their older bikes it certainly didn't. The second battery was merely for range. You got full power all the time, and you just increase range by adding another battery, which is what CPXs do. But yeah, so a dual, it's using both batteries, and you can sort of tell that if you look down here. This one's at 96 and this one's at 95. When I started, this was at 100 and this was at 99. So it's obviously consuming both the batteries at a time. Maybe I'll take out one of the batteries or disconnect one of the batteries and see what the performance is like. But if it's like they used to be, it shouldn't make any difference on performance, purely range. Okay. So it includes a 10 amp charger, which is the same as the older bikes. Nothing new there. They're saying that charging time is 4.5 hours. That is each battery. But of course, if you charge it through the bike now, you can charge both batteries without having to do anything. So the charging port is down there between my legs. So you're looking overnight basically for charging. Okay, so 4.5 hours, 10 amp charger. Okay. One of the big other differences between this and the standard SK3, and also a general difference between Horwin and V-Moto, or pretty much every other bike that we do, apart from a TC Max, is that this is now, they've moved away from chain, which is a good thing, and they've now moved to belt. So I'll come back to that in a second. We're just going to go up our test hill. Can't for a minute think that this isn't going to get up there very easily. No. I mean, if you saw one of the last tests I did on something called VS3, you'll see that there was a bit of struggle getting up this hill. This is 1 in 7, this hill. So, not a problem. Mick Jagger's old house, in case you're interested. Okay, so no issues with that. Okay, so yeah, no issues. If 11 horsepower couldn't get up at that hill, there'd be something wrong. Okay, so we've done range, we've done charging time, we've done battery capacity, and yeah, we were talking about belt. So it's obvious that having a chain-driven bike, you're introducing friction and noise and all of that sort of stuff, and high levels of maintenance and all of that. So it's a good thing that they've moved away from chain to a belt. Don't really know why they haven't gone to a hub motor in their bigger bikes. You know, you can get a 10 kilowatt hub motor now, and this is only 8. So don't know. They've stuck to a centrally mounted motor, which is essentially right at the bottom of the bike. And as you can hear, probably or hopefully, it also means that the noise that the old SK3 used to make is pretty much gone. You can hardly hear this bike moving, which is obviously a good thing. Having a belt obviously potentially needs replacing. What we're finding on other bikes with belts, which is essentially the TC Max, if you happen to get some grit in that belt, a little stone or whatever, it essentially shreds the belt, and then unfortunately the sprockets too. So you do end up having to change the sprockets and the belt together. Can't really do one without the other. So that is a potential risk, and you know, the belts can stretch. You might have to readjust them. So it's a slight overhead in maintenance, but not something that you'll probably have to worry about too much. I imagine these are Gates belts, so they're pretty good quality and all that sort of stuff. So don't worry too much about that. Other things about the bike in general. So this bike has come with a rack rather than just the grab rails. I think the rack is extra. And the other thing is that this bike is running on 14-inch wheels front and back. Okay, so again, if you wanted to compare that to like a CPX, the CPX is 16 front and 14 back. So it's neither here nor there really. Some people do worry about wheel sizes, but if you've got ABS and traction control, which the current live version does have, then I wouldn't worry too much. You'll see on the Horwin website that the rear of that bike looks different to this bike, and that is because they've added in ABS and traction control, and you can always tell by looking at the disc itself if it's got ABS on it. So this bike currently has CBS, combined braking. Okay. Pricing I can't tell you anything about. It's being sold in Europe for like €5,500, that sort of price, which let's say that translates to £4,500. CPX Pro is 4. That's after the grant, so its RRP of a CPX Pro is 4,599. Sorry, 4,499. So I'm not sure what Horwin are going to do about that in the UK. The grant is basically going away in the UK, so they'll have to come up with some pricing if they decide to bring it in. The other thing also is on colours. So as you can see down here, this is a grey, nice grey, and it's got accents now around here. Before, it didn't used to have that, it was a single colour. There was a graphite, there's a blue, and a sort of deep gloss green. So there are 4 shown on the Horwin China website, but only 3 shown on other websites. So not sure if it's going to be 4 colours or 3 colours. But as I said, it's all to be determined. So what we're going to do now is we'll go to our little test track and test it out, going down 0 to top. As I said, it is in kilometres, so we'll have to work that out as we go. But we'll come back and then we'll show you how it performs down there, and then we'll wrap up. So see you back in a minute. Okay, so we're at our test track. Conditions have changed slightly since we did the other part of the ride review, but that's British summer for you. So we're going to whiz down here. We put it in mode 3. It should get to 100 kilometres. Remember, our dash is in kilometres, but I'll try and convert it to miles as I go. Do the normal thing. But just to go around the dash one more time, modes, reverse, park, which now goes in and out of park rather than just into park. No cruise control, they've got rid of that. Basically lights, indicators, and horn and hazards and all that. Down there, keyless go, including open the seat. You just have to flip the remote and you can get into that. Cubby hole for your mobile phone, bag hook, master cylinders, 7-inch display, pretty clear. And that's that. So we will give it a go down here and put the times up. Its main competitor, of course, is now the CPX Pro. So I'll see if I can compare it to that as I go. All right, so back in a sec. Okay, so it's going to be in kilometres. It's going to be 32, 48, 64, 80, and 96 kilometres on the dash, which corresponds to 30, 40, 50, and 60. Okay, so let's see how we get on. Mode 3, let's go. So we're all at 50. So 50 miles an hour now. remember, this is with both batteries. You can ride this bike with just one battery, but of course the draw from the battery on these on the scales there will obviously just go through the roof on one battery. That's 100 kilometers. There we go. So not bad. See, this is a belt-driven bike, so I wouldn't expect it to be as good as a hub-driven bike. We've seen that before with the AE8S, even though that's got 14 kilowatts. It didn't outperform the Segway, although that's got 10. So this bike is out and out going after the CPX Pro. They make a point that it's got 8.64 kilowatts of power versus 8 kilowatts of power for the CPX Pro. That 0.64 is almost 1 horsepower more, but they seem to want to make a point of it. But of course, if you compare this to a Segway, which has got 10 kilowatts, then you are sort of bound to expect the Segway to win. But will it win over a CPX Pro? So we'll do that again on the way back and just see if anything comes to light. But I think it's going to be close, but I would expect the CPX Pro to win. Although the CPX Pro has got currently it's got 60 volt batteries. So 60 volt batteries versus 72 volt would make a difference. So this might have it. The only real way to work it out is to actually put up the figures. But yeah, when you have a 74 volt or 72 volt based bike versus a 60 volt one, if everything else was equal, then the one with the higher voltage would out accelerate. And at the moment, not only does this have this almost 1 horsepower more, but it does have higher voltage in the batteries, but then it does have belt. So interesting that. I will give it another go from a standing start just back here. So, as Jeremy Clarkson said, wet track. We might be able to get to the top whack by the time we get down to the traffic lights. Let's hope that's the case, but obviously wet conditions, and we'll see how we go. So I'll put the times up later. .64 50 miles an hour. No, didn't make it. Okay, so we have got to top speed in that time with other bikes. I don't think wet tracks have much to do with it on this sort of bike. But suggested summary, to be determined if it's come to the UK is I guess the first thing to say, so this might all be pointless. But it is meant as an upgrade to the SK3. The SK3 was brought out as a direct competitor to the CPX, possibly a bit too late. This has been brought out as a competitor, I guess, to the CPX Pro, but the CPX Pro is already in the UK, and it is for £3,800 after the grant. But that's currently the 60 volt version, 6045, the same as the old CPX. With 8 kilowatts, CBS, ABS, GPS tracking, no storage, similar sort of size, although a bigger front wheel, 16-inch front wheel. This one's got 14-inch front and back. But this one, they've sort of beaten it in some respects. So a big screen, for example, is one. They've now caught up in terms of the app. It weighs 100 kilos without any batteries loaded, so you're talking about 140 odd kilos with the batteries loaded. Belt driven versus hub driven. Slight maintenance overhead there, I guess. But with its 72 volt batteries and 45 amp hours, it is currently should have more range than a CPX Pro, because the CPX Pro is still on 60 volt. However, as you might have guessed from the new CPX, they're moving to 74 volt 45 amp hour. So when or if that happens to the CPX Pro, then that will leap over this one again. But currently, from an acceleration perspective, I'm interested to see the figures myself, because if it was literally 72 volt versus 60 volt hub motors, same power, you would expect the 72 volt bike to win. But because it's got a belt, it might still just scrape it, but not by a lot. The belt has had an effect, as we said. With the AE8S, it had 40% more battery power than the Segway, but the Segway still won, and the batteries were about the same voltage, but it was hub versus belt. So it is going to be interesting. The good news about this bike, like all the other Horwins, of course, is that you can ride it on one battery and still get the same speed, and this is the case with this bike as well. So range is quoted 100 kilometers, 60 odd miles. That's possibly realistic. I mean, we're at 77% now, and we've ridden, what, about 12 miles from 95%, and we're doing 12 miles back. I guess the real question about it is, one, is it coming? And two, if it's coming, what would the price be? Because with Vimoto now directly represented here, they can afford, they've cut out a layer of margin. There's no importer, dealer, manufacturer. It is manufacturer, dealer. And because of that, they have brought their prices down. As a perfect example, the last standard CPX dual batteries that they were selling were at £2,799 when they were originally £4,999. That's not to say that, you know, they were just getting rid of them, but, you know, all of the prices of V-motors have come down, and they can sort of afford to do it because there's no distributor. It is just them and then people like us. Okay, so prices in Europe, they're quoting, well, there's a couple of different prices that have been quoted. 5,300 euros, 5,500 euros I've seen as well. If that translates to pounds directly, which they sometimes do, that would put it more than a Segway 300 with 3 batteries, which would get you more range, more power, ABS, traction control, a colour screen like this one, a little bit of storage. So it really depends on that sort of discussion. I'm not saying you shouldn't look at it, but we have other bikes that these days seem expensive for what you get, which is good, because that means the prices are coming down and making them more affordable. So shouldn't complain about that. Okay, so I think I've covered everything in either this part or the other part. 3 colours. It is a worthy upgrade to the SK3, so if you liked your SK3 and this does come over, it would be a good upgrade to it. But I guess if there's one thing they could have added, is ABS, because it's only got CBS. So that would at least bring it up to par with a Segway, an AE8S, a CPX Pro. that would, I guess, be the one thing that I would say is missing. And you can tell it's missing because they haven't got the ABS discs. Right, so hopefully you found that useful. As I say, this might be here next year. In the UK at least, it's already available in Europe. But if you do have any more questions, then please feel free to contact us. Please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel where there's many other reviews about this and other bikes. And thanks very much.